The galaxy was wide old and filled with countless civilizations that had risen long before Earth had even built its first telescope. Across the stars, empires stretched, alliances formed, and trade flowed like rivers of light. The Galactic Union, an ancient council of many species, stood as the heart of peace and cooperation among the stars. For over 10,000 years it had guided the destinies of its members, deciding laws, protecting worlds, and setting the stage for new arrivals. When humanity finally arrived, it caused no great stir. To the elder races, humans were simply another species crawling out of their gravity well, curious enough to build starships but too young to matter. They had only just begun to explore beyond their solar system, when the Union extended its hand, offering membership and access to the larger galaxy. At first, humans were hopeful. They believed the galaxy was a place of learning, friendship, and equal respect. But reality quickly showed itself to be far less kind. First impressions: the first time human ambassadors stepped into the Grand Hall of the Union, they were overwhelmed by its scale. The chamber was massive, built within a hollowed asteroid larger than any Earth city. Glowing banners of light drifted through the air, displaying the symbols of over 400 member species. The walls shimmered with embedded crystals, storing centuries of history. Yet for all its beauty, the hall was not welcoming. As the human delegation walked in, hundreds of alien eyes turned to study them. Some were curious, others dismissive, a few openly amused. The sight of fragile-looking bipeds in plain formal suits seemed laughable compared to the grand robes, armors, or natural splendor of other species. A voice from the side, belonging to a reptilian envoy from the Trask Empire, spoke louder than intended. Small, thin, they look like hatchlings. How do they even survive their own world? Another alien, a massive insectoid from the Carol hive, clicked its mandibles in what passed for laughter. Perhaps they are kept as pets by stronger predators. That would explain their presence here. The comments were not hidden. They echoed across the chamber, and many delegates chuckled. Humanity's ambassador, a calm woman named Elena Ruiz, kept her expression neutral, though her aides shifted uncomfortably behind her. That day set the tone. The reputation of weakness. Soon after joining, humans gained a reputation, the weakest species of the Union. The reason was simple. On the official charts that measured the danger level of homeworlds, Earth was ranked low compared to most members. Many alien worlds were Class 7 or Class 8 death worlds, where predators grew as tall as houses, weather could kill in minutes, or gravity crushed weaker creatures. By contrast, Earth was only rated Class 4, dangerous but not extreme. To the Union, danger bred strength. Species from higher class worlds were expected to be hardier, tougher, and naturally superior. And so the conclusion spread like wildfire. Humans were fragile, soft, and unsuited for war. Alien media outlets mocked them openly. Cartoons showed humans running from shadows or fainting at the sight of alien predators. Jokes spread in marketplaces. How do you stop a human army? Show them a thunderstorm! At first, humans ignored it, thinking it was only harmless teasing. But the laughter grew louder with every passing season. The councils scorned during council debates whenever humans suggested solutions. Their words were brushed aside. When Ambassador Ruiz proposed better trade routes for border colonies, a hulking delegate from the Turok clan scoffed. Perhaps the humans should focus on farming or singing. Leave strategy to those who have teeth. When Earth scientists offered medical knowledge, their work was treated with polite dismissal, as though a child had drawn a picture and expected it to hang in a gallery. One evening, during a heated discussion about defense fleets, a Creal Dominion observer, though not part of the Union, mocked openly. Send humans to fight. At least we will be entertained before they break. The chamber roared with laughter. Only a few silent figures, older species who had seen centuries of wars, watched humanity with careful eyes. Human reactions on Earth, news of the mockery spread. Many citizens were outraged. How could they be insulted so openly by species they had once admired? But others saw it differently. They understood something important. The galaxy underestimated them. History had taught humanity a lesson. Whenever they were underestimated by nature, by rivals, even by themselves, they adapted, grew stronger, and surprised the world. From the survival of early tribes against predators, To explorers crossing dangerous oceans, to soldiers facing impossible wars, humans had always been underestimated, and yet they endured. Admiral Jonathan Kane, a veteran of Earth's first deep space fleet, summed it up simply in a private meeting. They call us weak because they don't know us. They measure danger by teeth and claws, not by will. That's their mistake, and one day they'll learn. Quiet observers, not every alien agreed with the mockery. A few had studied human history more carefully. Dr. Solran, a scholar from the peaceful Valari species, often warned others in academic circles, "Do not judge humans by their bodies alone. Their history is short, yes, but full of fire. They have survived disasters, wars, and endless conflict on a planet they call only Class 4. Their true weapon is not strength, but adaptability." But his words were ignored. To most, humanity remained a curiosity, better suited for trade deals than military matters, a festival of laughter. The peak of humiliation came during the annual Union Day Festival, a grand event broadcast across the galaxy. Every year, different species displayed their culture, music, and strength. That year, humans offered music, a symphony played by Earth's best orchestra. Their performance was beautiful, haunting, and powerful. For a moment, the hall was quiet. But then laughter broke out again. "See? They fight with sound waves," sneered a delegate. "They should play while we march to war," joked another. The laughter echoed, sharper than any weapon. Humanity smiled politely, but their hearts burned. A silent promise. After the festival, Ambassador Ruiz stood alone on the balcony of the Union Hall, watching alien ships drift through the stars. Her aides asked if she was discouraged. She shook her head. "No, they think weakness defines us, but weakness is not our truth. One day, whether by chance or by choice, we will show them who we are." Far away, in hidden training facilities orbiting Earth's moon, young pilots and engineers prepared quietly, not with anger but with determination. They studied not only their own ships but the designs of alien fleets. They learned, adjusted, and adapted, just as humanity always had. Because humans knew something the galaxy did not. Mockery was fuel. And when the time came, that fuel would burn brighter than any star. Closing of Part 1. Thus, humanity's early years in the Union were marked not by respect, but by scorn. The galaxy laughed, confident that Earth's children were nothing more than fragile dreamers. But deep within human hearts, a silent promise was made. The day would come when laughter would turn to silence, and silence would turn to awe. The galaxy would one day learn the truth. Mocking humanity was the greatest mistake they could ever make. The laughter at humanity's expense had lasted for years. They were mocked in the council chambers, dismissed in trade negotiations, and treated like children at the grand festivals of the Galactic Union. To most alien powers, Earth's children were fragile beings who would never matter in the struggles of empires. But history had its own way of testing those who were underestimated. And that test came sooner than anyone expected. The shadow of the Dominion beyond the peaceful borders of the Union lay the Cryal Dominion, a brutal empire of warriors who had never joined the Council. For centuries, they raided border colonies, enslaved weaker species, and crushed any who resisted. Their fleets were massive, their soldiers bred for war, and their culture worshipped strength above all else. The Union had fought them before. Sometimes the Dominion was pushed back, sometimes it claimed victories. But one truth remained. The Cryal warriors respected no treaties, no diplomacy, no kindness. They only respected power. When the Dominion sent a message to the Union, the galaxy trembled. The message was simple. A fleet of Cryal warships had gathered near Union borders. They demanded tribute from 3 frontier worlds. If the Union refused, they would take those worlds by force. And to make matters worse, the Dominion added a cruel condition. If the Union wishes to prove its strength, send its weakest member to face us. Let the humans fight first. If they win, we shall withdraw. If they lose, then all shall see the truth of your fragile alliance. The words spread like fire through the stars. Across Union worlds, alien citizens laughed at the absurdity. Of course the humans would lose. That was the point. The Dominion had chosen them not only to humiliate Earth, but to shame the entire Union by showing that its newest members were nothing more than prey. The Council divides. The Grand Hall of the Union filled with angry voices when the challenge was announced. "This is a trick," shouted the reptilian Trask delegate. "They seek to humiliate us. We cannot allow humans to fight. It will weaken the Union's image. They are mocking us and the humans are too fragile to resist," agreed a towering Turok clansman. "Send our fleets instead. Crush the Dominion." But then came the counter-argument. The Dominion had demanded humans. If the Union refused, it would prove the accusation that they were weak and afraid. Worse still, the Dominion would claim the right to attack freely, saying the Union had broken the terms of challenge. As the debate raged, the human delegation remained silent, listening carefully. Finally, Ambassador Elena Ruiz stood and spoke. "Honored members of the Council," she said, her voice steady. "You call us weak. You say our defeat is certain. Then why fear sending us? If we are truly fragile, then the Dominion will win quickly and nothing will be lost. But if you refuse their terms, you give them the victory without a battle, which is worse." The hall fell silent. Ruiz's words were sharp, carrying a calm logic that many could not ignore. Still, the Union leaders hesitated. They feared the embarrassment of watching humanity destroyed on the battlefield. But then the human admiral Jonathan Kane stood beside Ruiz and added his voice. "You doubt us. You mock us, very well. But understand this, humanity does not back down from a challenge we accept." "We will fight the Dominion," gasps echoed through the chamber. The humans had spoken for themselves. And with that, the Council had no choice but to agree. The galaxy reacts. The news spread faster than light could travel. Across the galaxy, media networks broadcast the headlines. "Humans sent to face Dominion fleet. Weakest Union species accepts challenge. A battle already lost." Alien citizens filled forums, markets, and meeting halls with laughter and bets. Many placed wagers on how long the human fleet would last. Some said an hour. Others said minutes. No one believed Earth's children could stand against the most feared warriors of the Outer Rim. On the Dominion side, the Kryal commanders prepared their fleets with arrogance. To them, this was no real battle. It was theater. A chance to humiliate the Union before all the stars. Their soldiers sharpened their blades and laughed, speaking of humans as if they were insects. "Let them come." One Kryal general growled. "We shall scatter their ships like dust, and when the Union watches their fragile allies burn, they will know true fear." Humanity's decision, while the galaxy mocked and doubted, humanity prepared. On Earth and its colonies, the announcement stirred anger, pride, and determination. Citizens gathered in public squares to watch the speeches of their leaders. Families sent blessings to the soldiers who would fight. For the first time, the laughter of the galaxy united humanity, not in shame, but in resolve. Admiral Kane addressed his fleet before departure. His words were simple, spoken without the grand gestures of other species. "They think we are weak. They think we cannot fight. That is our advantage. Let them laugh. When the time comes, we will show them not what they expect, but what we are capable of. We are not fighting only for Earth. We fight for respect, for every human alive and for every child yet to be born." The crews answered with a single powerful word. "I." The fleet, humanity's fleet, was not the largest. It was not the most advanced. But it was crafted with precision and guided by minds that had studied every alien war for decades. The flagship was the HMS Resolute, a sleek warship built with Earth's finest alloys and armed with rail cannons, missile pods, and energy lances. Surrounding it were smaller destroyers, frigates, and carriers, each designed for speed and adaptability. Unlike Dominion ships, which were heavy and bristling with armor, human ships relied on agility. They were smaller targets, harder to hit, and capable of maneuvers few other fleets dared attempt. But their greatest strength was not in metal or engines. It was in the crews themselves, men and women who had trained tirelessly, who trusted each other with their lives, and who carried the determination of an entire species on their shoulders. Voices of doubt. Even as the fleet departed, the voices of doubt did not stop. In the Union Council, some whispered that this was suicide. News channels interviewed alien strategists who predicted certain defeat. "Humans lack the genetic enhancements of warrior races," one expert said. "Their ships are light, their weapons untested. This is nothing more than a symbolic sacrifice," another argued. But among the ordinary people of Earth, faith grew. Children painted pictures of starships with Earth's flag. Families wrote letters to the soldiers filled with hope and courage. Farmers, engineers, scientists, all understood that this was not only a battle, but a chance to prove humanity's place among the stars. The calm before the storm as the human fleet crossed into the frontier. Silence filled the void. Pilots sat in their cockpits, engineers checked systems again and again, and commanders reviewed battle plans. Every crew member knew what was at stake. In the observation deck of the Resolute, Admiral Kane stood looking at the stars. His second-in-command, Captain Aisha Grant, joined him. "They're laughing at us," she said quietly. "They always have," Kane replied. "Do you ever doubt?" He shook his head. "No, doubt belongs to them, not to us. They doubt us because they don't understand us. That is our strength." Grant smiled faintly. "Then let's give them something they'll never forget." The Dominion arrives. The Dominion fleet was already waiting when humanity reached the border world of Arcanus. Dozens of massive warships filled the system, their armored hulls glowing with energy shields. Their weapons arrays shone like stars, ready to unleash destruction. The Kryl commander broadcast a message across all channels. His face, reptilian and scarred, filled the screens. "Humans, you dare come here with your toys? You should have stayed on your little blue world, hiding under your clouds. But since you have come, we shall give you a lesson in true war. Prepare to be destroyed." The transmission ended with roaring laughter from the Dominion crews. On the Resolute's bridge, silence followed. Then Admiral Kane gave a single order: "Prepare for battle." The galaxy watches from across the Union, billions tuned in to the live broadcasts. Every council chamber, every market, every home had screens showing the human fleet facing the Dominion armada. Alien citizens leaned forward in anticipation, eager to see the weaklings crushed. But among the humans watching from Earth and her colonies, there was no laughter. Only quiet pride and determination. They whispered to themselves, to their families, to their gods, "Show them who we are." Closing of Part 2, the stage was set. The Dominion waited with arrogance, the Union watched with disbelief, and humanity prepared with silent resolve. What the galaxy thought would be a quick defeat was about to become something else entirely. For the first time in history, humans stood not as explorers or traders, but as warriors representing their entire species. And though no one believed in them, they believed in themselves. The battle was coming. And with it, the galaxy would learn a lesson it would never forget. The human fleet moved like shadows through the stars. Every day that passed brought them closer to the battlefield where the Dominion waited. And though the galaxy laughed at their coming defeat, inside the ships of Earth there was no laughter. Only hard work, quiet determination, and the kind of focus that only came when survival was on the line. The War Council on, the flagship Resolute. Admiral Jonathan Kane gathered his commanders in the War Council chamber. A large table projected a holographic map of the enemy fleet. Massive warships covered in thick armor, bristling with heavy weapons, each one larger than most human cities. The Dominion's numbers were terrifying. They had twice the firepower of the human fleet, and their ships were built to endure punishment. On paper, the battle was already lost, but Kane's eyes were steady as he studied the map. Around him, his officers waited in silence. Captain Aisha Grant, second-in-command of the fleet, spoke first. "We cannot meet them in direct combat. Their armor will crush us and their weapons will tear our ships apart." "Yes," Kane said, nodding, "which is why we won't fight them on their terms. We fight on ours." The officers leaned forward as the Admiral began to outline his plan. "We use speed, deception, and coordination. They think we are weak, so we will use their arrogance against them. They expect us to break quickly. Instead, we will strike fast, retreat, and strike again, like hunters. We will not fight one battle, we will fight many battles at once." The commanders exchanged looks. It was a dangerous strategy, but it was also the only way. Training the crews from that day forward, the fleet became a living machine of preparation. Pilots drilled maneuvers again and again until their ships moved as if guided by one mind. They practiced sudden turns, precision strikes, and formation shifts that would confuse even the most experienced Dominion gunners. On the carriers, fighter squadrons trained with unusual tactics. Instead of charging directly, they practiced weaving through enemy lines, creating distractions and illusions of weakness. A squadron might appear to be fleeing only to circle back and strike from behind. Engineers worked day and night, tuning engines, reinforcing shields, and testing weapons. They were not building stronger cannons, they were making every shot count. They developed ways to overload energy lances for brief, devastating bursts that could pierce even Dominion armor if aimed at the right place. Soldiers trained for boarding actions, though they knew it was unlikely. They prepared nonetheless because humans had learned through history that war never went according to plan. A conversation in the mess hall in the quiet hours of the night cycle. The crew gathered in the mess hall of the Resolute. Food trays clattered, voices murmured, and nervous laughter echoed against the walls. One young pilot, Lieutenant Mark Evans, leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. You ever think about what they're saying out there? The aliens, I mean. That we're going to get crushed? Across from him, a mechanic named Sarah Malik shrugged. They've been saying that since we joined the Union. It doesn't matter. We're not here to make them laugh. We're here to fight, Evans sighed. Still, they're so sure of it. Like we don't stand a chance. A veteran gunner at the next table, old Sergeant Hayes, chuckled. His voice was rough, scarred by years of service. Let them laugh, kid. I've fought all my life. And I'll tell you something. They're making the same mistake every bully makes. They think strength is about size, but strength is about will. When this battle comes, it won't be about who's bigger. It'll be about who refuses to quit. The room grew quiet as the crew listened. Hayes lifted his cup of water and raised it. To proving them wrong. Dozens of cups lifted into the air. To proving them wrong. The strategy of adaptation, Admiral Kane spent long nights studying the patterns of Dominion warfare. Their tactics were brutal but predictable. They believed in overwhelming force, charging forward, using heavy armor to absorb damage, and relying on sheer numbers to crush their enemies. Humans had faced this kind of mindset before. On Earth, they had fought empires, dictators, and armies that believed brute strength would always win. History had taught them otherwise. Adaptability, Kane said to his staff. That is our true weapon. We do not need to be stronger. We only need to be smarter. The plan was refined again and again. Recon drones would scatter across the battlefield, feeding live data into the fleet's command systems. Human ships would strike in small groups, vanishing before the Dominion could respond. Fake transmissions would be broadcast to create confusion. False targets would draw enemy fire. And at the heart of it all was trust. Every captain, every pilot, every gunner knew their role, and they trusted the others to play theirs. Messages from home before the final days of preparation. The fleet received transmissions from Earth and its colonies. Families, schools, and entire cities had recorded messages of support. Children's voices filled the screens. Come home safe. Show them what humans can do. Don't let them laugh at us anymore. Some soldiers cried quietly as they listened. Others smiled with renewed courage. Admiral Kane watched every message, his jaw tightening with each word. He knew the weight on his shoulders was more than military. It was the hope of an entire species. A quiet warning, one evening. A transmission arrived from Dr. Solran, the Valari scholar who had long defended humanity in the Union. His voice was calm but urgent. I have studied your history. I know you are capable of more than the galaxy believes. But remember, victory will not only be measured in ships destroyed, it will be measured in how you carry yourselves. Do not simply win. Show them what humanity is. Kane listened carefully and replied with a single nod. We will. The last simulation. The night before battle, the fleet ran one final war simulation. Every ship took part, maneuvering through the void as if the Dominion were already upon them. Commands flashed across the comms, fighters danced like sparks of light, and the entire fleet moved as one body. When it ended, the results were clear. The strategy worked. Not perfectly. Mistakes still happened, ships still fell in the simulation, but enough to give them a chance. Kane addressed the fleet afterward. His voice was calm, steady, but filled with fire. Tomorrow the galaxy expects us to fall. They will watch, waiting for our defeat. Let them watch. Let them see not what they expect, but what we choose to show. We are not here to prove them right. We are here to prove ourselves. The fleet answered with thunderous cheers that shook the walls of their ships. A night of reflection. That night, silence filled the ships. Some crew members wrote last letters to their families. Others prayed. A few simply stared at the stars, wondering what tomorrow would bring. On the observation deck, Captain Grant found Admiral Kane still awake, studying the stars. You should rest, she said softly. He shook his head. I'll rest after the battle. She stood beside him, both gazing at the endless darkness beyond the glass. Do you think we can win? She asked. Kane paused, then smiled faintly. I don't think about winning. I think about fighting. As long as we fight with everything we have, the rest will take care of itself. Grant nodded slowly. Then let's fight. Closing of Part 3, the human fleet was ready. Their ships gleamed with polished armor, their weapons charged, their crews prepared. More importantly, their hearts were united. The galaxy believed their defeat was certain. The Dominion believed their victory was guaranteed. But humans believed in themselves. And as the first signals of the Dominion fleet appeared on their sensors, every man and woman aboard the fleet knew this was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment to prove the galaxy wrong. The human fleet drifted in silence, their ships lined in formation like blades of steel against the endless dark. On every deck, every bridge, and in every cockpit, hearts pounded. The time for waiting was over. First contact, the Dominion arrived with thunder. Their warships appeared on the sensors first, massive shapes cutting across space, their shields glowing like suns. Soon they emerged into sight, towering vessels of black and crimson covered in scars of past battles, each one bristling with heavy cannons. There were dozens of them. Their fleet dwarfed the humans like giants standing over children. The Kryl commander opened a channel, his voice echoing through the speakers of every human ship. Humans, you are fools to come here. Look upon our strength and know your weakness. We will end this quickly. Pray to your stars if you have any gods left. Laughter followed, cruel and sharp, before the channel cut. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Kane's expression did not change. His voice was calm as he gave the first order. All ships, activate battle formations. Hold steady. The watching galaxy across the Union, billions of alien citizens watched through live feeds. In the grand halls of distant worlds, on giant screens in marketplaces, in quiet homes, every eye was fixed on the battle. Most expected the humans to last no more than minutes. Some had already prepared to laugh, but the laughter faded into silence as the battle began. The opening strike. The Dominion moved first. Their ships advanced like a wall of iron, cannons flashing as they unleashed a storm of fire. Beams of plasma and bursts of energy streaked across space, ripping toward the human fleet. Shields up, Captain Grant ordered. The first wave struck. Human shields flared, trembling under the impact, but held. Smaller ships darted aside, their engines blazing as they dodged the heaviest fire. Then Admiral Kane gave the command. Strike teams, now. From the flanks, human destroyers and frigates broke formation. They darted forward in sudden bursts of speed, their rail cannons firing with pinpoint accuracy. Unlike the Dominion, who aimed with brute force, humans aimed for weak points, exposed vents, weapon ports, and shield nodes. The Dominion laughed at first, calling the damage scratches. But then one of their cruisers staggered, its shield flickering. A second volley from human ships pierced through, and the great vessel exploded in a burst of fire. The first Dominion ship was down. The galaxy watching fell into stunned silence. The dance of ships, the battle became chaos. Human ships weaved like hunters, never staying still, striking quickly and vanishing before the Dominion could lock onto them. Fighters darted through the battlefield, drawing fire, only to circle back and hit vulnerable targets. The Dominion tried to crush them with numbers, advancing in heavy formation. But this was exactly what Kane had planned for. Decoys launch, he ordered. Small drones scattered into space, sending false signals that mimicked human ships. Dominion gunners fired at them, wasting volleys of fire on empty targets. In that confusion, real ships struck from the shadows, tearing through engines and shields. The Dominion roared in frustration. They had expected prey. Instead, they had found hunters. The turning point. Half an hour into the battle, the human fleet had destroyed 6 Dominion ships and crippled 4 more. But the humans were not untouched. Several frigates had been lost and many more ships carried scars of fire. On the bridge of the Resolute, alarms blared. The ship trembled as a blast struck its shields, sending sparks across the consoles. "Shields at 60%, shouted the engineer. Kane stood tall, his eyes fixed on the enemy flagship at the center of the Dominion fleet. It was enormous, twice the size of the Resolute, and commanded the others with ruthless precision. "Take out their flagship," Kane said softly, "and the rest will fall apart." The order was clear. Every ship knew their new target. A desperate maneuver to reach the flagship, they needed to break through the Dominion line. The risk was enormous, but hesitation meant defeat. "Form spearhead formation," Kane commanded. Human ships shifted into a sharp wedge with the Resolute at the front. Engines roared, and together they surged forward, slicing into the Dominion's wall. Plasma fire rained down, shields flared, and hulls screamed under the strain. One human frigate was torn apart, but the others pressed on. Fighters swarmed ahead, distracting the Dominion gunners, while destroyers hammered openings in the line. Slowly, painfully, the humans pushed through. "Almost there," Captain Grant shouted. The Dominion flagship loomed before them, its cannons glowing with deadly power. The flagship duel. The Resolute faced the monster head-on. The Kryal commander appeared on their screen once more, his voice dripping with contempt. "Pathetic creatures. You dare challenge me? I will break you with a single strike." His ship unleashed a storm of fire. The Resolute shook violently, alarms blaring, shields dropping to 30%. "Return fire," Kane ordered. Rail cannons roared, energy lances burned, and missiles streaked through the void. The human flagship struck again and again, hammering the same point on the Dominion shields. "Focus fire. One weak point is all we need," Kane barked. The Dominion commander laughed at their efforts until suddenly his laughter stopped. The shields flickered, then collapsed in a burst of light. "Now," Kane roared. The Resolute's cannons fired in unison, piercing the enemy flagship's hull. Explosions ripped through the Dominion ship, fire spilling from its engines. A final missile slammed into the core, and with a blinding flash, the flagship shattered into debris. The galaxy watching erupted in shock. The weak humans had destroyed the Dominion's pride, the retreat. The Dominion fleet faltered. Without their flagship, their formation collapsed. Human ships pressed the advantage, striking fast and vanishing before the enemy could regroup. After another brutal hour, the Dominion commander's surviving ships began to retreat. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by disbelief and fury. And just like that, the unthinkable had happened. The Dominion had been forced to flee. Silence. Across the stars, when the last Dominion ship vanished into the void, silence fell. Across the galaxy, in council halls, homes, and marketplaces, no one spoke. The laughter that had once filled the stars was gone. On Earth, people cheered, cried, and celebrated. For the first time, humanity stood tall among the stars, not as weaklings but as warriors. On the Resolute, Admiral Kane sat quietly in his chair, the weight of victory heavy on his shoulders. His crew erupted in cheers, but he remained calm. "Signal the fleet," he said softly. "We proved ourselves. Now let's bring our people home." Closing of Part 4, the battle was over, but its echo shook the galaxy. What had been expected to be a short humiliation turned into one of the most shocking victories in Union history. The Dominion, the most feared warriors of the frontier, had been defeated by those the galaxy called weak. And for the first time, every alien in the Union began to whisper a new truth. The humans were not what they seemed. The battle was over, but space was not silent. Debris floated where mighty warships once stood. Broken metal drifted, glowing faintly as it cooled. Fires burned on shattered hulls, and lifeless fragments of machines moved slowly through the void. The human fleet floated among this wreckage. Their ships bore scars of the fight, shields drained, armor cracked, and hulls torn. Some ships were missing altogether, destroyed in the storm of battle. Yet for all their losses, they still stood. For the first time in history, humanity had faced the Dominion head-on and survived. More than that, they had won. The mood on the Resolute, on the bridge of the Resolute, the crew sat in silence. The cheers from moments earlier had faded into a heavy quiet. Victory had a cost, and every man and woman on board could feel it. "Report," Admiral Kane said softly. 17 ships destroyed, 39 heavily damaged. "Casualties," the officer's voice broke for a moment. "Casualties are high, sir, but—" "We held the line," Kane nodded. His face was calm, but inside his heart weighed heavy. Every lost ship was a name, a crew, a sacrifice. Still, he knew this truth. Their sacrifice had given humanity a future among the stars. "Signal the fleet," Kane ordered. "Begin recovery of survivors. Prepare medical ships, and send word back home."
"Tell Earth."
We stood. Across the Union, the news spread like fire through the Union. Worlds that had laughed at humans now stared in silence. On the trading planet of Orvax, alien merchants replayed the battle feed again and again, their faces pale. On the council world of Teralis, ambassadors whispered in fear, wondering if they had made a mistake mocking humanity. Even in the farthest colonies, in bars and marketplaces, people spoke one name: humanity. They were no longer the weaklings of the stars. They had defeated the Dominion, something few had ever done. The Kryal Dominions shame back in Dominion space. The Kryal rulers raged. Their proud fleet had returned battered and broken. The loss of their flagship was an open wound, and the shame of retreat burned like fire. Many among the Dominion had believed humans would be crushed in a single hour. Instead, they had been humbled before the galaxy. Never again, one Kryal warlord growled to his council. We will rebuild. We will erase this shame. But even in their anger, fear crept into their voices. They had seen human strategy, human courage, and human will. They knew their next fight would not be easy. The Union Council weeks later, the Union Council gathered in their grand chamber. Representatives from 100 worlds sat in tall seats, their eyes fixed on the floor where Admiral Kane now stood. It was rare for a human to be invited here. Until now, humans were spoken of but never spoken to. That day was different. Kane wore no medals, only his simple fleet uniform. His voice carried steady and strong as he addressed the council. You called us weak. You called us prey. Yet when the Dominion came, who stood? Who fought when others would not? Humanity did. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kane continued. We did not ask for glory. We did not fight for pride. We fought because survival left us no choice. But now you know the truth. Humanity is not weak. We endure, we adapt, we stand. Silence followed his words. For the first time, the Union saw humans not as fragile newcomers, but as equals, a change in reputation after that day. Everything changed. Where once alien merchants mocked humans, they now treated them with caution and respect. Where once alien soldiers laughed at them, they now studied human tactics in their academies. Young alien cadets whispered stories of how small human ships danced between giant war cruisers, striking with deadly precision. Engineers admired the simple but clever human designs. Even leaders who had insulted humans now avoided speaking ill of them. The galaxy had seen the battle. It had seen humans fight against impossible odds and win. Earth's reaction. Back on Earth, cities erupted in celebration. For generations, humanity had feared being crushed by older, stronger civilizations. But the victory changed everything. In New York, crowds filled the streets, waving banners and cheering the names of the fallen ships. In London, bells rang in every tower, echoing through the night. In Beijing, children pointed at the stars, saying proudly, "That's where our people won." And in every corner of Earth, people no longer looked to the sky with fear. They looked with pride. The families of the fallen, but celebration was not the only sound. For every cheer, there was also a tear. Families gathered in quiet homes, holding the names of those who had not returned. A mother on Mars read the letter of her son, a pilot who had given his life in the fight. A father on Earth stood at the grave of his daughter, whispering her name as the city celebrated. Admiral Kane himself wrote to each family of the fallen, his words simple. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Humanity lives because of your courage. The cost was high, but their memory would live forever. A meeting with Captain Grant weeks later, Kane stood on a balcony of the Resolute, looking out at the stars. Captain Grant joined him quietly. They still don't understand us, Grant said. They will, Kane replied. One day, Grant smiled faintly. They thought we were weak. Kane nodded, his eyes steady. And now they know we are strong. But strength is not only in battle. It is in how we endure, how we rise after loss. That is what makes us human. The two stood together in silence, the stars shining bright before them. The legacy generations later, cadets in academies would study that battle. They would watch the recordings of the Resolute breaking through the Dominion line. They would memorize the names of the fallen ships. The story would be told again and again, not only by humans but by aliens too. It would begin the same way every time. The galaxy mocked the humans as weak. But then came the battle, and everything changed. A quiet moment, Admiral Kane retired years later. He lived simply on a small farm under Earth's skies, where he could watch the stars he had once fought among. One night, as he sat on his porch, a young boy asked him, "Were you really there at the great battle?" Kane smiled softly. "Yes, I was there." "Were you afraid?" the boy asked. Kane looked up at the stars. "Yes, we were all afraid. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to stand even when fear is great." The boy's eyes widened and Kane placed a hand on his shoulder. Remember this. Never underestimate your people. Never underestimate humanity. Others once did. And they learned the truth. Final echo, the galaxy never forgot that truth. The Dominion rebuilt and prepared for more wars, but they never again mocked humans. The Union shifted, treating humans not as fragile newcomers but as vital allies. And across the stars, wherever people spoke of courage, one memory always returned. The memory of the day when humanity, mocked and underestimated, proved itself in the fire of battle. Closing line. Humanity was no longer just one more race in the galaxy. Humanity had become a symbol, a reminder that even the smallest, even the weakest, can rise to greatness when the stars themselves call them to stand.